Well, good evening. Good evening. I'm Larry Souter, and welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. We're coming to you from Bixler Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. Some of you are watching online. We're thankful for that, and we have some people in the audience today. Well, since this is December, we're kind of festive with our set this evening. I know some of you are watching this in July, or it could be June or September, but for us, it's Christmas time. And I'd like to share a story that I heard some time ago that I think kind of fitting for this time of year. It's about a woman who played the piano in a church for 37 years. She desperately wanted her son to play the piano. He had no interest in playing the piano. But she kept saying, if you just play the scale, you can hear the best news in the world. So he tried it. No best news, no good news. She said, you need to play it backwards. Okay, I'll play it backwards. Again, no good news. She said, you need to play it backwards with pauses. Pauses on the first, second, fourth, sixth, seventh, and last notes on the scale. He said, that's crazy. I'm going to go outside and play ball. I'm not going to do this. Years later, she died, and he was an adult, went back to the house. The piano was still there, and he remembered what she said. If I just play the scale backwards, pausing on the first, second, fourth, sixth, seventh, and last, I'll hear the best news in the world. And he did. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. And he certainly has, and that's good news no matter what time of year, in December, or if you're watching in July. We usually have a theme scripture from Romans 8, 38 through 39, but today's scripture is from Psalms 98, 4 through 6. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Burst into jubilant song with music. Make music to the Lord with a harp and the sound of singing, with trumpets and the blast of the ram's horn. Shout for joy before the Lord the King. Well, our guest tonight is a Christian psychologist. I've known Frank for a number of years. His name is Dr. Frank Scott. He's a counselor. He's an educator. He's a biblical scholar. He's a church elder. He's a brother in Christ. And if you let him, he'll be your friend and confidant. Through his counseling, with God's help, he has saved marriages and saved lives. And tonight we're going to have kind of a freewheeling interview with Dr. Scott. He's going to share some of his stories of amazing grace and also offer some tips dealing with the Christmas holiday stress. But first, we have a video clip from when I first interviewed Frank in 1995 on a show called ID 21.
Well, hi and welcome to ID 21.
Welcome. I grew up under Dr. Spock and his philosophy. Tell us about what his philosophy was and how has that changed today?
Okay. Permissiveness, and that was a generation of the 50s and 60s, but really the experts have found that that didn't work as well as what he thought it was going to work, and so it's kind of, the pendulum swings back, and now it's more in the direction of consequences, suffering as a result of your actions. So it's moving back in that direction.
Should children be spanked?
Yes, but in moderation. I mean, it's still spanking works, but it takes more creativity to have other ways of disciplining them. Anyway, it's easier just to whack them one.
Well, that's a good thing to get into then. What are some of the techniques for discipline?
What's the best way to whack someone?
Yeah, that's what he wants to know.
It takes more thought into how to discipline them. And a timeout is just a real good technique. It's pulling them away from anything that is rewarding them at the time and putting them in the corner is what it comes down to. But it doesn't have to be for a lengthy period of time, just long enough to make the point that they're being disciplined.
Please welcome Dr. Frank Scott. Come on up. Thank you, sir, for being here. Have a seat.
I like that.
Well, do you have the same view? Now, you have the two good-looking grandkids. Did you, have you spanked them?
I've given them a whack before, if that counts, because I still believe in what I said.
Yeah.
But you're just doing it to make a point that you're the one in charge, not them. That's all they need.
So you don't beat them?
No. I liked my hair back in those days. What happened?
I don't know.
And your hair, what
Yeah,
happened?
well, I had some anyhow. Well, this is kind of a freewheeling interview. Thank you for filling in tonight. Earl Young was to be my guest. He is a gold medalist in the 1960s in the 4x100 relay and won a world record in that event. But we're glad that you were available and you're here with us tonight. And we want you to share some of your stories of amazing grace, maybe about your personal life, maybe about your counseling job and other areas. Should we start perhaps with your parents and how they met?
That's a good story.
Okay.
I've told that one before, but it's dramatically true. Okay. That's my grandmother, my father, who I barely remember.
Now let me guess.
Yeah.
You're on the left?
No.
No. Okay.
No, that's John, my identical twin brother, and there I am over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did they meet?
Okay. This happened, gosh, it was like 90 years ago. My mother was a 16-year-old high school student at Lipscomb, boarding in the dorm, which was real unusual for a high school student to be in the dorm. But I found out later she didn't have anywhere else to go. Her family had been torn apart. And so somehow she ended up as a boarding student at Lipscomb in the high school. But there was a fire in the girls' dormitory one night in the dead of winter. And, I mean, it was a bad fire. And some girls were seriously injured. But she was up on the third floor, and she and her roommates couldn't get out. They were trapped on both ends, fire. And so they strung sheets together to climb down the window 3 stories. And even though she was the youngest at 16, she ended up holding the sheets for the rest of the girls. So they got out. The campus was awake by this time, and one of the boy basketball players tried climbing up one of those pillars, those concrete pillars, in the side of the building to get to her, and he did. So he was supposedly holding the sheet as she climbed down, but she slipped when she was coming out of the window, and she fell the 3 stories and landed on her back on the sidewalk, and it just shattered her back to the point she couldn't walk. In fact, she had to lay prone for 2 years or stand up. She couldn't sit down, but it really hurt her back. And she ended up in St. Thomas Hospital. And one of the Lipscomb students, guys, came to visit another girl who had been hurt. And he saw my mother, and he introduced himself, Clem Scott. He was actually called Hooper Scott, his middle name. And he came back the next day to visit my mother-to-be, bringing a rose. And he came back every day for 30 days bringing a rose.
Really?
To meet my mother. And as soon as she got out of the cast, they married. She was 18. Yeah. God's providence.
And you came along sometime after that.
It was really 17 years after that. They didn't think they could have children.
Really?
And my understanding is they had given up, but I guess not totally. So, and then my brother and I were born. When my mother went to the doctor, she had no idea she was pregnant. But he said, yeah, you're pregnant with 2. So here we came. But again, God's providence answering her prayer, because above everything else, she wanted children.
Let's take a look at you and John, right?
John.
Frank and John and Frank with question marks. I think you had the thinner face.
Yes,
John.
my brother calls it a donkey face. But
donkey
yes,
face.
yes.
So you are on the left.
No,
Oh,
the
wow.
thinner face. No, the thinner face is
Oh
on
yeah,
the
well,
right.
yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah. I say John has a nice full face, but and I actually recognize this. This was at Shelby Park, and this appeared. We grew up here at Madison. This was actually in the Madison church paper when we were this age, with that caption, because they couldn't tell who we were but they just like
What
the
age is
picture.
that, you think?
I don't know, 7 maybe?
Yeah, probably. Looks like water behind you, I guess.
Yeah, that's Shelby Park at the lake there, I guess, one of the ponds.
Okay, I think we have another one here. Age progression a little bit. A little bit blurry, but this is teenage years.
We're
Now-
playing, yes, we're playing Babe Ruth League baseball, thin as a snake, aren't we? What happened? But John was a pitcher and I was a catcher. Even though I didn't have the build for a catcher, I was tall and lanky, but that's just how, that would work out, a pitcher and a catcher.
I was looking down when you pointed. Which one's you? You're on the left?
No,
Oh.
Larry, I'm on the right.
Maybe I have John sitting here in the chair.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
Wow, okay. Are you taller than him?
No, we're both 6'4",
Okay,
same height.
thought you were 6'5".
No,
You sure?
maybe I've shrunk.
Okay. Okay, another one here,
Oh, I like
I
this.
think.
Oh.
Look at this.
Okay.
Look at this handsome guy.
All right. So I would have been about 31 or so there. Diane, my wife, and we have one son, David. And yes, where would we have been living then? I'm not sure. But we have that as a big picture mounted in our stairway, so I'm very familiar with that one.
With big lights on it and everything,
No,
I guess.
no lights.
Well, while we got this picture up here, tell me how you met Diane. How did this come about?
Okay.
Providence here, I hope?
Providence.
Okay.
Providence. I got a job working in downtown Nashville when I was 16, and Diane was already working there as a secretary in an insurance office, and I was just a lowly file room clerk type of guy, working after school, going to Madison High School and driving down after work downtown. And she was the prettiest girl in the office, obviously, but I had no courage to talk to her ever. Maybe I'd smile. But it took me till I was a junior in college to send her a note.
So how many years?
That was like 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years. Yes.
Wow.
I would smile at her, but I never really would talk to her. But eventually I sent her a note in the mail, just asking. I didn't know if she was dating anybody or engaged.
And what did she say? And what did you say?
Well, I thought I was being very original. I put a little index card in it, and I just said, check the box, yes or no. Would you like
Really?
to go out with me? I thought it was original. I didn't know people did that. So I sent it in the mail to her home in Donaldson. And I waited and waited, and finally, about 2 weeks later, I get a letter back in the mail from her. And it's a nice, lengthy letter, but the bottom line of it was, you can call me.
Ooh.
So I did, but I was too embarrassed. I was really shy. Too embarrassed to call her from my house, so I went to a friend's house to call her. And so we went out to our first date here in Madison to a movie theater, and I made a horrible choice for what we were going to do. It was a scary movie, and she hates scary movies. I don't know what was wrong with me.
Let's scare Jessica to death.
Exactly. I wasn't going to say it, but that was the movie. No one has ever heard of that movie.
You know that's a cult classic now?
Is it?
It was released in 1971. Let me read something about it here
Okay,
for you.
well, you
Hang
know
on.
this.
Hang on.
Okay.
The movie's plot centers on Jessica Zora Lambert, a young woman recently discharged from a sanatorium, which maybe connects with your counseling, I don't know,
yeah.
whose husband, Duncan, ferries her to the countryside for a fresh start. When the couple arrives at the rural farmhouse they bought, they find it already occupied by Emily, a seemingly harmless hippie who they eventually learn bears a striking resemblance to a long-dead drowning victim who supposedly stalks the nearby town as a vampire-type ghost. After ill-advised seance, is there any other kind?
Ill-advised.
Jessica is plagued by ghostly voices and a series of terrifying encounters. Is that how you remember it?
I remember portions of that. 1971, that would have worked. That was when I was a junior in college, and that would have been our first date.
And how'd that go?
Well, she acted nice, but
Did
later...
she jump into your arms when there was a
maybe
scary
that was my
scene?
plan. I don't know what the plan was. But I think I remember falling in love with her, even from that first date. Oh, it didn't take long at all. And the second date, I took her out to eat, and she ate so little, I thought, oh, she's low maintenance. This is going to be good. So that was good, too.
I see.
Yeah.
What were some of the traits that endeared her to you?
Well, she was always really interesting in conversation, plus gorgeous, and a Christian. I remember what really put the icing on the cake when I found out she was a member at the Donaldson Church of Christ. I didn't realize we shared the same Church of Christ background. And when I found that out, I thought, oh, yeah. So that's what got us going.
And one more picture, I think, of the twin here.
Oh.
A little bit later on in life. Now, you were on the left, right, this time?
This one?
Okay. This is you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yes, very good.
Finally.
Yeah, that's right. And yes.
Now, he weighs a little bit more than you, I guess.
Well, I think I've caught up with him.
Oh, okay. Now, how did you get along as twins? They say, twins have a clairvoyant type of thing. Could you read one another's mind and whatnot?
No, but we always thought similarly.
Meaning?
Well, we didn't have conflict, and we still don't. I don't know if we ever have really gotten into an argument that was lasting. I mean, as teenagers, we would punch each other in the arm and things like that, but never a real conflict. It hasn't happened. And now we talk to each other twice a day, every day.
How do you do that?
6:30 in the morning. We call.
Okay, that's
yeah,
the time.
telephone. Yes.
How can you do that?
Well,
you're really close to your brother.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I am. And so and now I talk in the afternoon to him too. But yes, we've always just been close.
does one dominate the other during this conversation?
No.
So you just give and take and share?
Give and take.
It's just a wonderful situation.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and he'll tell me. I mean, it's great to have a confidant. Like he'll tell me if I'll tell him what I'm doing in life, and he'll say, "Well, that's stupid. That's dumb. Don't do that." And it's nice to have that type of freedom.
Sure.
You have a friend like that you can just be honest with, and he'll tell me if I've done something well, and vice versa. So it's fun.
What does he do for a living?
Okay, he has been a minister for 45 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He is the longest serving, not in one church, but just Church of Christ minister in Dallas-Fort Worth.
But you both went to the same college.
Yes, we both went to Lipscomb. I majored in psychology. He majored in political science, which has nothing to do with the ministry, really.
Right.
I don't think either one of us were planning on ending up in ministry when we were in college.
Well, how did you get into this psycho business there?
Well, God's providence. I ended up in psychology just because I made an A in the first class and liked it and decided that would be a good major, so I just kept going. And then once I started practicing counseling with people, I thought, okay, this really is me. I like this. And John started out in the youth ministry, and he's done well in the ministry all these years. And then I decided, once I finished my master's in psychology, which is really like psychological testing, that was my early training, like intelligence testing and the complex psychological testing. But I'm
trying to stay with you.
Well,
I know I'm not as educated. But I'm trying to stay with you.
Yeah. Well, yes. But I didn't like it that much, not the testing part. I like to talk to people. So I switched into the counseling side of it.
Now, pause there for a minute. You say you like to talk to people, but you confess that you're an introvert, and I am too, to a large degree. So why do you like to talk to people?
Well, see, I'm talking now, but usually I'm the one in your role. I like to ask people questions and bring forth a response. That's what I really like. So I do more listening than talking. So it feels weird for me to hear my voice as much as what I'm hearing it tonight.
Do you think you've led a sheltered life in regards to things of the world?
Well, I did growing up, but I mean, I've heard thousands of stories now of the worst type of situations. So I don't feel sheltered now. Now, personally, I haven't been through that much, thankfully.
It is what I'm getting at here. I probably shouldn't say any of this.
Go ahead.
But I think you've led a sheltered life, been protected.
Yes.
You haven't gone out and gotten on drugs and
Correct.
come home drunk and
Correct.
so on and so forth. Could it be that interviewing these people who have these problems gives you an alternate universe to kind of live in without really indulging in those things?
No. I thought you were going to go with, like I've worked a lot with drug and alcohol concerns
Yeah.
with people, but I've never drank and never taken drugs. And people will say, well, how can you be effective? And I say, I don't know, but I think I know how to live life well without it. So that's my approach. But I mean, I agree, people who've been down a hard road, they have a lot to contribute to other people because they understand better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't understand the world of a drug addict, let's say, but I've just heard enough stories, I get it. But personally, no, I don't relate to that.
What's some of the strangest, wildest stories you've heard from your clients?
Actually, it was back in the days when I was working in the psychiatric hospitals. This was back in the 80s. And I think I was working at 5 hospitals. And one of them had they used to call it multiple personality. They had a multiple personality, this was in Texas, unit, specializing in that. So I got to know a lot of people with multiple personalities, which is totally fascinating. Now they call it something different, and you don't hear as much about it. But just meeting people who thought they had other personalities, and I think some did.
Were some of them demon-possessed?
Yes. Even the psychiatrists would say that.
Really?
Yes. Well, at least they would say they have some type of evil personality. All of them had some type of dark, negative, sometimes evil personality that went with it.
How do you treat that?
No one ever really
You get out a
figured it
cross
out.
and do an exorcism, or what do you do?
At first, I was afraid of those people, but I learned not to be because they knew that I was a Christian and they respected that God-honoring part of me. So I started out being afraid of them, and then I found out they were afraid of me.
Really?
Yeah. So I haven't done any exorcisms, but I've certainly prayed for people about maybe a demon. And I wouldn't say maybe. I mean, I would pray for the demon to leave them.
So you would say that demon possession is alive and well today, or not?
Yes. I don't see why it wouldn't be. It was alive and well during the time of Christ and before. So I don't think demons have gone away.
And how do you treat that?
All I know to do is to pray for the person. And I remember one situation praying for a young lady, and she said, "You better not do that." She said, "If the demon comes out of me, he's going to go into you."
Really?
So that gave me pause.
Wow.
But I went ahead and did it anyway. But I don't think I became demon-possessed.
Yeah.
But I did. And supposedly she got better.
Are the major issues that you deal with marriage-related? What is the number one issue with marriage?
I've done a lot of work with marriages over the years with people in extreme circumstances, that's true. I think at the root of most of the people I deal with, though, are childhood issues that manifest as adult issues.
Is that true with any of our problems that stems from childhood?
Probably most of our problems.
Most of them.
That's why I've always been interested in parenting, and how you do that and do it well and give your child the emotional attention your child needs, because I think it stems from that. Like I was talking to someone today, not related to this church, but just like she had a alcoholic father who was not involved in her life, and a mother who also was an alcoholic, I would say, had all the money in the world, but she never got the attention that she needed. So it led her down a lot of dark paths in her life. But I think hers, yes, they stem from childhood issues, and I think most people do. So even marriage problems, we have a certain way we grew up, a certain way of seeing life and seeing ourselves and seeing other people. And if you put two conflicting personality types that see life so differently together, of course there's going to be conflict.
Can some people just not be helped with counseling or anything?
Yes, if you don't want to be
Do we just
helped.
have bad blood or bad genes, or what is it?
I don't think it's bad genes, but I think it's the desire. If people don't want to be helped, you can give all the good advice that you have, but it doesn't matter. If they don't feel a need to change, let me put it that way. And for a lot of people, they have to hit rock bottom, not just in drugs, but in life. until they say, yes, I know I need help. That's when people are amenable to change. So that's when you have a chance.
Are you getting more and more of the transgender type issues now?
Yes.
And how do you counsel about that?
Okay, that's one of the real controversial issues out in the field now, because the government, for example, would say don't tamper with whatever anybody says about their gender. Leave it be. Don't try to point them this way, that way. Just be totally neutral. If it's a fella saying that I'm a girl, you just accept that and go on. And I think that's hard for us as Christians to do that when we see you're created male or you're created female.
Right.
And it's hard to see the transgender issue there. But I think that we have to try to see it from that person's point of view. Like I've had people that they want to be called they or
Really?
it, not he, not she.
And is that stem from childhood, like you said, with other issues? Something that way in the past, or what?
You almost have to take it situation by situation. Some of it is so complex, it's hard to untangle. Maybe there's a genetic base to some of it. I'm not the expert, but I have been dealing
You're
with
close.
it some.
You're close to it.
Well, I've been dealing with it some.
Yeah. What about the gay issue? Is that something that you counsel?
Yes. And
People want to not be gay, or they want to be,
No,
and
I think
they want to
people-
be affirmed that they are gay?
yeah, they want to be affirmed.
Okay.
They want to be affirmed.
And
And
do you affirm?
it depends on what you mean by affirm.
Okay.
I mean, I will say I care for you deeply, and I do, and I'm not faking any of that. But if you're going to ask me, do I accept that lifestyle, I would say no. But that's the truth. That's what I think the Bible would say as well.
I think I've heard you say in the past, if you're working for an organization that takes funds from the government, you're limited in how you can counsel people. Is that correct?
Well, even if you have a state license,
Oh.
you're limited by what you can say.
Oh.
So, like I'm treading in dangerous waters right now as I'm talking about this. Yeah,
You have a state license?
I do. Until they hear this.
Do you take these problems home with you?
No.
How do you avoid that?
I don't want this to sound weird, but I think it's a gift from God. I mean, I don't lose sleep over this. It's like, I think most medical doctors, you attend to the situation, and then you move on to the next one and the next one. And I mean, I care about the people, but I don't worry about them at night unless it's something extreme. I can't say that totally. Some, yeah, I think about at night and I pray for, but I think that's what helps me at the deepest level, though. It's like I know it's not up to me, it's up to God, and I'll just give them over to God. God, you love them more than I do. You take care of them. I'll do my part.
In my wife's family, there is a family member who has twice attempted suicide. How do you counsel people who have that mindset? And what is triggering them to think along those lines?
I've learned not to be afraid of that either. And you just go ahead and jump on in and talk to them about what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what they might want to do.
It's because they are depressed? What did they say?
Yeah. A lot of them, they don't have a reason for living anymore. They don't see the point. They think they might be more of a burden to people than a blessing, and so they want to end their lives. And I've had patients to kill themselves, and then you
Really?
have to deal with that. Like, did I do enough? And they have what they call psychological autopsies, where the professionals get together and you talk about it. Well, what happened? Why did it happen? What did you do?
That's after the fact.
After the fact. What should we have done? And you just try to go through it all to see if. But a lot of times they have just made the decision, and it doesn't matter what you do. I remember letting a person go out of the hospital once in Dallas, and he had convinced me that he was fine, and he went home, and before he even got into the house, he killed himself in the garage. But I don't think there was anything I could do to have stopped that, because he was determined to do it.
How would you psychoanalyze me? You know me a little bit, not deeply, but you've seen a couple of different sides of me. I'd be careful. Maybe I should have asked that question.
I don't know, Larry. Well, you know, like I always tell you, I have a lot of respect for you and what you do. I know that your well, there's more to it.
Keep it coming.
I know that your childhood was difficult. And I think that's affected you in your life. And I don't think you have the confidence that you could have, should have. I think you do very well in everything that you do. And I wish that you felt that. How's that for being blunt?
Oh, boy. That's good. What do we owe you?
No, I think people that grew up with harsh childhoods just have it more difficult in life, and they have a lot to overcome.
I don't know if it was as harsh as what I make it out to be, maybe. But there were moments. There were moments. Well, let's talk about the Christmas season, the holidays.
Let's talk about you.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm joking. Okay, we can talk about the holidays.
How would you analyze yourself?
Okay, well, I'm one of the blessed ones.
You're one of the blessed ones, and I'm not one of the blessed ones.
No, didn't mean that. No. I admire people that have overcome a lot in life. Yeah, there's a blessing in that.
You've had it good all along, haven't you?
Well, I've had a blessed life.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been struggles. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that introversion just a little bit.
Okay.
Was this always the case growing up, that you were withdrawn and shy?
Because I think we were twins, and we were always having people looking at us and comparing us and staring at us. And I never had my own identity. I was never Frank.
And you wanted that?
Yes. I didn't want to be John Frank, Frank John,
and
Scott
you
Boy,
dressed
Scott
alike until 7th grade?
Yes, you remember that.
Uh-huh.
Our mother didn't know better. And I guess we didn't know any better, but we always dressed alike. And so that just compounded it. So I always admired people who would make the effort to tell us apart, and most people didn't. They didn't make the effort even. So a lot of it was just the self-consciousness of always being looked at.
Is John more outgoing than you?
Yes, but deep down he's not.
Do you resent that?
No.
How does that make you feel?
No, he's just adapted to it differently. He's become more outgoing, but I can tell it's really fake.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I've told him that, I think. Yeah. So
So you're real, you're genuine, but he's more of a faker.
Oh, well.
You may not have this conversation with him every day like you have been.
See, now I'm getting uncomfortable. No, but sometimes I find myself being fake too. I'm more outgoing than what I'm really feeling, but you just learn, well, you have to fake some of it in life.
Yeah.
You just can't sit down over in the corner somewhere and stay there.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, let's talk about Christmas,
All right.
holidays, stress, being down.
Okay.
What's the main cause that many people are stressed and sad during a happy time of the year?
Grief issues.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Either situations or people that they have lost, and the holidays bring it back to mind again. And I think we Americans do a horrible job of dealing with this. All the advice that we get is skewed. I mean, it's generally, make yourself busy and don't think about it, which a lot of people follow that path, try not to think about it. But the experts in the field say you've got to feel the pain to heal from it. And most people don't want to slow down enough to feel the pain of it. But that will bring healing, never complete healing, but that will bring a more complete healing than just always distracting ourselves from it.
So grief is the main thing.
Grief.
What else? Well,
of course, coming out of the pandemic, and we're not out of it. I mean, it looks like we're still not out of it. But that has been so isolating to people. I mean, I still know of people who haven't gotten out of their houses, barely functioning, after 2 years. And so just being that isolated for so long, I mean, we're social creatures, even though some of us are more shy than others. But overall, we're social creatures. And just not to have that, and the holidays bring that to mind. And then if you have family conflict, well, certainly Thanksgiving and Christmas time is going to bring that up again. What do you do when there's issues in the family and you're supposed to be together and it's not pleasant.
Do we have someone with a microphone? I think Anthony, Anthony is here. See if anybody has any questions here. While he's looking for that, let's talk about swimming. You can't swim. You don't want to swim. You're afraid of swimming. What's the deal? You need help.
I don't know. This is one of my disappointments in life. You talk about having it hard in life. I never learned to swim. So I never got my Eagle Scout. I got more merit badges than anybody. My brother and I did, but never got the swimming merit badges. It was neither one of us. Just couldn't do it. Maybe it's my body type. I don't know. I just sink.
Have you tried as an adult to swim? No.
Well, the other thing is I got almost drowned once up at our summer camp at Valley View. There were a bunch of little guys jumped on my head in the pool.
Great.
And took me down, and I could not get up to the surface again, and I really thought, I'm going to die. And so, no, I don't like to get out in deep water over my head.
Have you considered counseling?
People have volunteered to teach me, but I don't know if I want to do that anymore. So, no, don't press me on that one. I doubt I'm going to do that one. I don't want to change.
See if we have a question in here.
Do you talk or think much about the difference in environment and nurturing? I know that's always been an issue. What do you think about that for causes?
Yeah, you're talking about the nature-nurture balance. And I don't think there's any definitive answer. Everything that I've read, there are nature elements, like we're born that way, genetic, but I see a lot of it as nurturing, though, too. Just how you're raised has a huge impact upon you. So if I was forced to pick a side, I would pick nurturing. But I know there are genetic components like me. I mean, being an identical twin, that's genetic, and that's had a huge impact upon my life.
Ever wish you didn't have a twin?
No. No, it was great. Always had somebody to play with who was my ability.
I have a question. Does your brother swim?
No.
No, really?
No, don't think he can.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some Christmas memories that you may have. This is a Christmas time of the year.
Okay.
What are some moments that stand out in your mind?
Okay. Well, looking back, we always had great Christmases, and I never understood it because it seemed like we always got so many presents for Christmas from being from a single mom and didn't understand how that could happen. Well, Santa Claus / single mom. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like we always had a great Christmas, and I never understood why did we get so much more than the other children? And I just realized, well, that was my mother. That was her heart. That was part of the cherishing of us, not just lavishing gifts. I mean, we didn't have that much money. That's the truth of it. But she always prioritized us. So we had great Christmases.
There wasn't a sugar daddy somewhere that was supplying?
No, nothing like that. No.
Wow.
No, but it wasn't just the presents either, but it was just the atmosphere of Christmas was always pleasant.
I remember bubble lights on the Christmas tree. Did you have bubble lights?
I think so. I know what you're talking about.
I don't think they still make those.
I doubt it.
And in the small town where I grew up, there was a town Christmas tree, and a fellow, an old man, my age, would play the trombone late at night by the Christmas tree and play Silent Night. That stands out in my mind.
I have a memory of going Christmas caroling with my Cub Scout group.
Yeah.
They called Troop Cub Scout Pack, maybe. And how pleasant that was, going around in the neighborhood singing with the guys. So my memories are good of Christmas.
Any other questions, comments? What else would you like to share about how God has worked in your life or worked through your counseling ministry?
Okay. Well, the big thing I see is just what I've referred to about the providence of God. I've seen it in my own personal life. I've heard so many stories of how God takes care of you, of us, that I don't doubt that. I don't think I battle anxiety like so many people. I was reading today, 18% of Americans are diagnosable with an anxiety disorder. I read that statistic. I mean, that's almost like 1 out of 5 battle significant anxiety. And I've never, at my core, I just have always known God is there. God will take care of me and others. So,
it's a trust factor.
yes, I've never had an issue with believing that God will take care of me or other people. So, people that battle with anxiety, I mean, I can understand, but I think there is a spiritual component. And I'm not just saying trust God and it will all go away. I don't mean that simplistically. But still, there is a trust factor when you really believe there's an omnipotent God out there and He loves you, then it can wipe away a lot of those anxieties.
Those who don't believe that, who come to you for counseling,
Well,
what do you offer?
there are other techniques. And I mean, I still think a spiritual answer is important here. But I mean, just practicing mindfulness, and I do practice that. That's one of the techniques that most psychologists and counselors use now, where you just practice being fully in the moment, not thinking about the past or the future, just like right here with you, right now, that's it, not thinking about anything else.
You see, I'm sitting here thinking, when you stop talking, I got to have another question.
See?
So I'm thinking to the next question.
Which I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I'm trusting something will come from me or from you.
Well, let me just sit back here
So you can read it back.
and just trust a little bit.
Yeah, well, when you just fully listen to their response, you don't have to be calculating.
I'm trying to
Well,
listen.
I know, and I mean, I work on that too, but, I mean, I'm not just talking about counseling, but just in life, if you
Yes.
can just fully appreciate the moment. Like when I go on walks in the morning, I just try, okay, I'm just going to experience the walk, my feet on the ground, breathing, the birds chirping, whatever, and I'm not going to go anywhere else in my mind but that. And that's practicing mindfulness, and that's one of the helpers when it comes to dealing with anxiety.
I am not doing that when I walk. I'm thinking
Well-
about some project and how to
Yes.
solve some problem.
And I mean, I do that too, but I can intentionally say, okay, I'm not going to do that.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to experience the moment.
Okay.
And that works well for people who practice it.
About out of time. Anything else?
No, I've liked this.
I think you've liked it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you got me talking.
Well, that's good. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
Well, one thing that you're mindful of are people's birthdays.
Yes.
Everybody here, I bet, has received a card and a stick of gum from Frank Scott.
Probably.
How many sticks of gum do you give out a year?
Well, I've given out probably about 15,000
15,000.
through these 20 years.
Well, I have 180. So take those. That'll get you by a day or two.
Perfect Christmas gift.
Yeah, I hope they like juicy fruit.
And that's my favorite. That's
Good.
what I like to send.
Good.
Larry? Wow, thank you.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for being with us. And take time to share your story of amazing grace with someone this week. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Frank.